Hello everyone, welcome to another podcast. So today I'm in my office. So if you hear any sounds from outside, it's probably just like the construction that's going on outside of this building. Hopefully there's not too much residual sound. Anyway, I kind of wanted to continue the talk about self-talk from my previous podcast. Today I wanted to speak more specifically about this self-talk that's about, it's only me. And when I think of this, there's two things that come to mind. One of them is that when you have any problems, when you have any anything that's like going wrong in your life, you do this thing where you tell yourself that it's only you. You're the only one who has this problem. You're the only one who's this. You have the worst of this in the world, or everyone else has it worse than you, so it's only you that's complaining about this. And you keep telling yourself this so that you invalidate your own problems. When problems are not. It's not a depression, anxiety, life. It's not a competition. You're allowed to struggle. You're allowed to have problems, and you have to allow yourself the space to recognize that. So then you can start to make steps towards overcoming them. I think one of the things is recognizing that you do have a problem and you need to work on them. Recognizing that is a form of humility, I feel. I think having this mindset that you're the only one in the world who has this issue, or you're not worthy enough to have this issue. Who says that? I mean, like, who's the one that gets to decide that? Does that mean that only one person in the world is allowed to have one problem? Only the person that has the worst of each problem is worthy enough to have that problem. So it's like you can only have depression if you have the worst life possible in the world. It's like that's just not how it works. Depression is a relative thing. Someone who could be like completely like rich, they could have like a really horrible relationship with their parents, they could have addictions to something, and they could have problems with their friends, they could get bullied, whatever could happen. No matter how much money they have, they could have all these other aspects of their life that are causing them to be depressed. Whereas someone who could have like really great relationship with their family, have really great friends, they could start having really bad depression because of their lack of money and how much they're struggling to pay their rent, struggling to support their family, and that could cause depression for them. These two people have the opposite situation. One has an abundance of money but has the opposite of doesn't have all these other things, while the other person has all these other things but they just don't have money. And while it's true that money doesn't buy happiness, we do need money to live. And not having the basic amount of money just to live, like being in a situation where we're kind of like just getting by in life, that causes us to get really stressed, and that inevitably creates a sort of depression as well. And also anxiety. Like that creates a very strong anxiety of the future. So it doesn't matter if someone has a worse situation than you. You can be depressed by anything. We're all going through different things. We're all going through different walks of life, and we're not on the same journey. It's like, I think people tend to think of it as like you were in a race together and we're kind of like racing against each other. But I don't think of it that way. I think of it as more like we're all just playing different sports, and it's also like it's more like comparing yourself to like someone who's just began playing a new sport, comparing yourself to a professional in that sport. It's like, of course you're not as good as them. They've been at it longer. So I think a lot of it is we gotta give ourselves some slack. Go a bit easier on ourselves. Give ourselves room to breathe. But also like validate your problems. Recognize that you have an issue. You have a problem. It doesn't matter if your problem is not as bad as someone else's. They can still be dealt with. They can still create issues. And if you don't deal with them, they will be as bad as someone else's, this person that you're looking at. Like I used to think my depression was not really depression. I used to keep thinking like, yeah, but look at this person on TV or in this comic or whatever, they're not able to even talk to people. And then I eventually, after years, I got to that point where I couldn't talk to people. You know, if you keep comparing yourself to these people, saying you're not good enough, you're gonna become those people eventually, because that's how they got to that point. So you gotta recognize your problems, and instead of invalidating them, find ways to overcome them while they're still small problems, before they become bigger problems. And then you don't become those people that people compare themselves to. And then the second thing when I think of this this sentence or phrase, "it's only me," is this thing where you tend to put yourself down. Where, for example, someone doesn't respond to your message, and you can see that they're pretty active online, but they're not replying to you, and you feel like, oh, it's only me, why would they want to reply? Or, you know, someone cancels their meeting, or they show up really late, and you think, oh, it's only me, like why would they want to meet me anyway? Other people are more important. You know, these kind of things. It creates this thing where you put yourself lower than other people, and you really start to believe this, and you start to develop this thing where you preemptively think this before you even begin anything. So sometimes I've experienced where I would not even make plans with people because I have this mindset, or I'm just like, why would they wouldn't even say yes. So it's like, it's only me, why would they say yes? And that's such a toxic mentality. I feel like I've delayed friendships with people just because I've done this, and I've also like missed out on being friends with people. I'm not even sure, like maybe it wouldn't have worked out, maybe it would have, but how could I ever know, because I missed out. But there are people that I became friends with, and they were actually really, really kind, and I got really close with, but I kept saying that to myself. So it took like a long time, because I was kind of avoiding them in a sense, because I kept feeling like I wasn't good enough. One of the things that I've learned, and it's not easy, but one of the things I've learned is that we need to accept that things are going to happen in our life, and we need to be ready to face things. You know, sometimes you're going to face rejection. Sometimes you're going to face people disappointing you, things disappointing you. Sometimes people are going to cancel on you. Sometimes, people are going to choose other friends over you, and that's okay. And we need to learn to be okay in these situations. I've learned to kind of like look at things from my perspective, and also from their perspective as well. I can't be best friends with every single person in my life. There's some people in my life that I sort of have to have more of a shallow relationship with, just because I don't see them very often, and I'm not very close to them. They have people that they're closer with, I have people that I'm closer with. So we can't be super close with every single person. It's just not possible. I want to be as close as I can to as many people as possible, but we all have limits. Even when it comes to like the people subscribed to my channel, I try to be very I try to talk to them. I try to talk to you guys every time I get messages from you guys, but I can't be very like close friends with every single one of you. Like at the moment I'm around like 360 something. That's a lot of people. So as much as I want to, we all have limits, and I think that's one thing that you have to learn to be okay with. Sometimes there's friends that I really want to be friends with, but they're probably at their limit with the amount of friends that they can be super close with, and some people have really small limits. Like for me, I feel like my super close like circle, I feel like I can only handle probably like 3 to 5 people at most. But some people, they can handle like 20 plus people. It really depends on the person. But then like on my close but less close like outer circle of that, I feel like I could handle like a bit more, probably like 10 or so people. But then even then, they're not as close as the main circle. Like those are the people that I'm going to go to first to make plans with, to tell about things. And then people out there, they're kind of like people that I'll speak to frequently, but I'm not as close as the inner circle. I don't know, I think I'm getting too much into this, but yeah, it is something that I feel like we need to learn to just be okay with things not going our way, and not put ourselves down when they don't go away. When they don't go away, we need to take them at face value. We need to give people benefit of the doubt. Sometimes, if they cancel on you, sometimes even twice or 3 times, let's not assume it's because of us. Because the way I see it, if it is because of us, like if it was because of me, they wouldn't have even agreed to make plans with me in the first place. So I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt, and whatever they tell me is the reason, I'd like to just believe that. Because what benefit is there putting things in my own head about this person, and then it makes me believe things about them, and then sort of judge them according to that, and then my image of who they are in my head changes, and that's just not right, because that's not true to them. Try not to think so harshly about yourself. You're a much better person than you believe. I feel like we all tend to have a much more critical image of ourselves in our head, but you are much better than you believe you are. Don't think so negatively of yourself. That's pretty much it for this week. I'm definitely gonna elaborate more on this topic in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.